Hi guys, welcome to Westminster Uncensored. I'm Michael Heaver.
I'm Patrick Christie's.
And as ever, some of the big political news and views of the day. We want you live and direct and involved as we talk about potential Brexit betrayal, net migration still running at 244,000 a year, and German opposition to Angela Merkel growing. A lot to get through today. As ever, dive in, get involved. And Patrick, where else to start? But there's some very interesting developments on the customs union.
Absolutely. Well, the customs union, of course, was central to Brexit, and we have seen Chuka Ramuna and Anna Soubry and the rest of the Ramona cabal there in Parliament. They have now managed to secure a parliamentary vote on whether or not Britain stays in some form of customs union post-Brexit. And this is so central to today's show. This is why we're wanting your interaction to get on the comments board, because we think that this may cause some kind of fundamental crisis for Brexit. I will tell you why. Because this same group of people, we've seen this all before, haven't we? This same group of people.
It's nothing new, is it?
No.
It's like Groundhog Day. Do you remember that it was the Brexit veto, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the same group of people that pushed forward the fact that Parliament should have a veto on Brexit have now tabled this thing where basically we should get, where they want Britain to stay in some form of customs union. Now, they had a majority in Parliament when they pushed through the veto, and so it follows that they may well have a majority this time as well. And this could create some form of constitutional crisis, because it's crucial for the government's Brexit policy that we leave the customs union. This could tie us into staying, and therefore this is why general elections happen, isn't it? When the government can't force through its will. And so I think that Theresa May is 2 weeks to general election. I think we probably all agree that, and so we could end up seeing some kind of second referendum on the terms of a customs union deal. What do you think? This is clearly maybe dangerous territory now for Britain's political class.
I mean, it really is quite a bizarre situation we find ourselves in now, guys, because if you remember, if you cast your mind back, as we say, to that Brexit veto, the whole thing that went through Parliament, and the Ramonas actually won the day on that, and now they forced Parliament to have a veto on Brexit. And this is, make no mistake about this is about MPs giving themselves the right, that was, to overrule the government, to overrule the British people. They're now looking at, potentially, staying in a customs union, they call it. So the whole logic of this is that we would leave the customs union, but then we would join a customs union. It's a complete load of baloney. And the real issue here, guys, the real betrayal factor is, if you remember the Leave campaign, when it came to the single market, it was very clear. We're leaving the single market because we don't want open borders. We want to control our borders. We're leaving the customs union because we want to do global trade deals and stand on our own 2 feet. And these Ramonas, they have the audacity to stand there and say, well, no, we support Brexit, we respect the mandate, but actually we want to keep Britain in the customs union.
Absolutely.
But actually we want to keep Britain in the single market. It's an absolute, they are seeking to overrule the people. Those MPs in Westminster right now in Parliament are seeking to overrule that mandate, wipe it away, pretend it never happened, and overrule the vote of the public. I think there's going to be huge anger about this. Guys, let us know what you think.
Well, this is it. Well, we've had a lot of comments coming in already, saying, from Linda Russell, saying we voted out, so get us out. And loads of people here. One person advocating civil war. Well, we can't have that, surely. But I do take your point. Richard McDonald just saying, OMG, they cannot do this. And Tanis Pullen saying, May needs ousting now. Let us know what you think, guys. Please keep getting involved. And don't forget to visit westminster.com/support so you can back up the news that we're bringing to you.
Now, if you're as old as I am, you'll remember those days. Doesn't seem like a long time ago. Those days when Jeremy Corbyn was a staunch, principled Eurosceptic, apparently. Well, Labour Party heavily involved in this, guys. We're now looking at a situation. We've got the story over there on westminster.com where you can see all of the things we're talking about today. Jeremy Corbyn, a speech on Monday, being trailed as potentially going to back the UK remaining in a customs union. Emily Thornberry was on LBC talking about it. I mean, again, it's a complete joke. What they're saying is, well, yeah, of course, when we leave the European Union, we'll leave the customs union, but then we may just join a customs union, which is basically the same.
This is the level we're at.
Crucially, would mean that Britain cannot negotiate global trade deals, which is what the British public voted for. And this all comes back to one thing, guys. It comes back to one thing. The Labour Party now, and Len McCluskey was very open about this, the trade union chief. Labour now, their Brexit position essentially is whatever they can do to bring the government down.
Yeah.
And I've no doubt that they're going to pile in, as they did with the veto, with the likes of Anna Soubry, and all those Tory Ramonas on the backbenches to try and bring the government down, to try and cause another referendum, another election, and try and stop the whole thing from happening.
Absolutely. Bonus von Buer has got in touch to say Labour will sell their soul just to get into power, and that seemingly is what has happened. I find this quite ironic because Jeremy Corbyn, who is a man who garnered so much support on the back of him being this deeply principled individual, someone who will staunchly stand up for their beliefs in flagrant disregard for what anybody else thinks, has now flip-flopped completely on Brexit, and this staunch Brexiteer all of a sudden has gone a bit soft and wants to keep us in a customs union. And in relation to why this is bad for Brexit, I mean, what Emily Thornberry's actually put forward here is basically that Britain would be in a customs union, so we would be not able to go and negotiate, we would not be able to go and negotiate trade deals freely. This means that the key pillar of the Brexit vote would be nullified. So instead of being able to go and take advantage of this wonderful world of opportunity that we have out there, we will still be tied in to the EU's economy, which is not growing as fast as many other parts of the world. It also means when we do come to negotiate trade deals, it won't just be Britain doing it on our own. We'll be sat around a table with 27 EU member states. So you tell me how we're going to get the best deal for Britain there. We're not. Also, it must therefore mean some jurisdiction, Britain having to accept some jurisdiction of the ECJ. This is not Brexit.
Guys, we're at Westminster and not going to stand for this. We're going to keep highlighting it on our show Uncensored. Remember, it's 1 o'clock, same time, same place, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you're enjoying the show, do give us a retweet on Twitter. Do give us a like on Facebook. Tell your friends and visit westminster.com/support if you would like to support us, like to see us do more shows. There's a hell of a lot to talk about, guys. As I say,
Absolutely.
This is a fundamental threat. I'll just highlight again. It's a fundamental threat to Brexit, this. Because, again, when people went and voted leave, they voted on the basis of taking back control of borders, taking back control of trade policy, taking back control of laws, doing away with the European courts, and to stay in the customs union, or a customs union, or the single market. These Ramonas know exactly what they're doing. Yeah. Every step of the way, they're trying to water down and dilute this process. And I think on the Labour side now, increasingly, this is about bringing down the government completely and potentially stopping Brexit completely. So you will be able to go to westminster.com, guys. We're going to stay on top of this, but really a big threat to Brexit now, I'd say.
Well, we've had a few comments coming in. Peter Coppage just saying, keep up the good work, guys. Thank you very much, Peter. Please do help us out here. Darren Schofield saying, out. We need to get out now. And Marcus Fu tying in perfectly here with a story that we're coming on to, saying that the 60 MPs who sent Theresa May a letter outlining their red lines for Brexit need to challenge the rudderless hag, he's called it. That's a bit strong there, Marcus.
A couple of Twitter comments, guys. Do keep them coming in and give us a retweet if you're enjoying. We've got generic Redfern saying, why is your skin so shiny? I mean, I cannot answer that. I haven't moisturised. This is all natural. I don't know who you're referring to. Sorry.
Yeah, we both of us have not had any work done. I don't know if you can tell.
If we're a bit fluorescent, then I apologise. But hey, maybe I just need to go on a sunbed or something. I don't know. And as for James Reality on Twitter saying Labour can take that stance, it will finish them off electorally in the north of England. And this is the point.
Yeah, it's true.
The reason that Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party overperformed and went above a lot of people's expectations in the general election is because actually a lot of UKIP voters didn't go and back to Rees-Mogg and Conservatives. They actually went to Labour. And they did that because the Labour had a stance of coming out of the single market and taking back control of borders. Their stance currently, as I say, the Jeremy Corbyn stance, the Labour stance, and we'll find out more on Monday, is to basically cause maximum damage to the Conservative Party, try and bring down the government, try and cause another election. There may be another referendum, who knows? But that now seems to be their stance. So any sort of principle seems to be rapidly diminishing at the heart of the Labour Party when it comes to Brexit.
Well, we've just had a brilliant comment here from Leonard Augustine that ties in actually with the point that I would like to make. He's saying that the government are here to serve the people. It's not what they want, it's what the 52% of us voted for. And this is the thing that I can't quite get my head around, because we're sat near Westminster, near the Westminster bubble, and there seems to be a complete fundamental lack of understanding here from our politicians as to what it actually means to be a politician. You are here to represent the people, and the people have spoken. And we're in a situation now where they're doing everything they can, it would seem, to openly reverse that process. And actually, they need to give their heads a wobble, because seriously, this could have massive damaging consequences. The electorate and the British public will not forgive them. They will be completely disenfranchised with the political class. And I'm sorry, but that's bad for society, it's bad for democracy, and they need to sort themselves out.
Just remember what was sent in the post. I think we've got the image here for you. Just remember what the government said. We will implement what you decide. This is your decision. Now that, of course, was something that was said to try and bamboozle people into voting Remain. It didn't go that way. But the whole process we're set to be ongoing now is to implement. Politicians are meant to implement the fact that the British public voters can take back control of trade policy, of borders, of money, of laws. not to equivocate, not to dilute, not to do what they want and overrule the British public as we're seeing at the moment. They say they would implement. They're not doing it. You're seeing increasingly this Ramona fringe in Parliament seem to have the numbers as they do last time to potentially defeat the government on this and try and keep the UK inside a customs union. And that is not democracy, ladies and gentlemen. That is called politicians overruling the British public. And it's a very dangerous road to go down. I hope they think again. I hope this doesn't happen. But this is a fundamental threat to the Brexit that we want to see over.
Absolutely. The British public will never forgive Britain's political class if they do not enforce the will of the people. It's as simple as that. And nor should they be forgiven either. Yeah,
now we're just going to move on to Jacob Rees-Mogg. We know that a lot of you guys love a bit of the Mogg stuff.
Mogg stuff.
Some very interesting stuff on this indefinite Brexit transition. Did you see the document? Go and visit westminster.com.
Yeah, check it out, guys.
Basically, the government document that wasn't very clear exactly when this status quo transition is going to end. Don't forget. The government's policy is that we're going to leave the European Union in 2019, but basically nothing's going to change. We're going to have open borders, we're going to have to bow down to current EU laws, we potentially have to go along with new EU laws as well. It's the whole kit and caboodle with it. But Mogg making very clear that that would be a perversion of democracy, would let down millions. And as he keeps saying, there's huge concern over lost control over migration. It was a significant issue in the referendum, and people want to see control taken and action taken sooner rather than later. For this to drift on indefinitely deep into the 2020s is not what the British public voted for. Guys, let us know what you think about this. In my opinion, a status quo transition is a complete non-starter. It shouldn't be happening. And for people to be expected to wait 3, 4, 5 years in the future to see the things that they voted for implemented in the Brexit referendum isn't good enough.
Well, just to give you a flavour, guys, of the depth of public feeling at what it would mean for people to be so vehemently let down by the political class by not enforcing the will of the people. We've had comments here coming through, rolling in, talking about, I remember the poll tax riots. Well, I read one out before, obviously not something that we would condone here, people talking about civil war and things. I'm not sure whether or not they mean that literally, but obviously there's loads of people here just saying, look, it would basically be treason, we need a clear date when this ends, people should stop paying tax, people should stop working. These are just a section of the comments that are literally whizzing down our Facebook page now. This shows the depth of public anger here and the disenfranchisement with the political class if they do not enforce the will of the people. And it's a very risky situation for Britain to get into this.
Guys, if you're enjoying this, do give us a retweet, do like us on Facebook, do visit westminster.com/support if you would like to support what we're doing, if you agree with what they're saying, if you want to see us do more of it. Now, a reminder this week of why Brexit is so important, and one of the, for me it was the issue that won it for Leave. It's the thing I know you guys really do care about. It's the issue of mass migration. Net migration figures out for the year ending September 2017 came out, 244,000 for the year.
Net, isn't that?
Net. And then 578,000 come to the UK in 1 year. By the way, guys, just there on our website, do go and visit westminster.com. You can see there the ability on every story that we've got to sign up to our red alert email. Make sure you get yourself signed up. You do not want to miss a beat. We don't give you any BS. It's just the stuff you need to know. Also, there you can see the support link there if you want to support us as well. But basically, this story, 244,000 net migration still running at. You just think about, don't you, the housing crisis, the NHS crisis, the pressure on schools, the pressure on roads, the pressure on public services overall. And you see these colossal numbers still. Now, admittedly, they are down from the record high, but 244,000 net in a year. Surely, Patrick, what does this mean for our infrastructure?
This does have a monumental knock-on impact on Britain's infrastructure, doesn't it? So I've got some figures just here for you guys. With regards to the NHS, in 2006, 97% of A&E patients were seen within 4 hours. That has now dropped to around 81%. In the education system, the number of pupils taught in class sizes involving 36 or more pupils has trebled in the last 5 years. And Migration Watch did a housing crisis report, everyone knows the housing crisis exists, saying that of the 1.2 million new houses built in the UK between 2005 and 2015, 1.1 million of them were given to people that were not born in the UK. So their report was basically saying that mass migration is really, really worsening and deepening the housing crisis. So we are seeing here that an inability to get control of Britain's borders or implement a tighter immigration policy is having a wide-ranging knock-on effect on Britain's infrastructure as a whole. But we want to know what you think about this, really. And so please do dive in with your comments. Hello to all our YouTube viewers as well, and everyone on Twitter. It's not just about Facebook. We want to spread the word along all platforms.
Indeed, and I think one of the greatest frustrations with the whole Brexit process at the moment is you do still hear, so the government are sticking to their tens of thousands net migration target. Now, you heard it from David Cameron yonks ago. The Conservatives are still saying, yeah, that's our target. But people, I don't know about you, I want some times, I want some dates, I want some idea of when this is actually going to happen, rather than being some vague concept that doesn't seem to have any sort of specifics around the implementation of it.
Yeah.
And again, when you talk about status quo transition going on until at least 2021, and we know how EU-style politics works, we know the volatility of British political scene at the moment, that could roll on for years after and all the rest of it. So I think when it comes to net migration, it's something with great urgency. You know, every year now we're looking at still 250,000 net. I mean, this is a huge burden being added to public services and strains and all the rest of it. And look, we want a controlled system, don't we? We want migrants that can contribute to our society that we need, but it needs to be controlled. It needs to be in sensible numbers in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joanne's just chimed in here. Joanne Sherratt, thank you very much for getting involved. Joanne saying, love the real news and not the fake BBC mainstream media. It's interesting you should say that, actually, because when the figures came out not so long ago about the ridiculous population surge in Britain, you could not find that on the BBC's website. So thank you very much for chiming in to that. Leslie White's hit on a point that I think is absolutely crucial here, saying they're not building the schools and hospitals and houses that we need. So this is a gripe that I have. It's all very well and good having, X amount of levels of migration. Fine. If you build up your infrastructure to be able to handle it. But you can't do both. You can't not build up the infrastructure and then have these, ridiculous levels of mass migration. Because then what does that create? It creates an absolute mess for society.
But the problem is
to do one or the other. Control your migration or build up your infrastructure.
But the government have no idea, and local councils have no idea what the population increase is going to be every year because we're not controlling it still. So you can't plan. You can't say, right, we know roughly how many people are going to come every year. It's in the lap of the gods because everyone with an EU passport can come here. And that's, again, this was a pivotal part of the referendum. It's been forgotten, in my opinion. It's not got the coverage. It's not got the impetus that it deserves. I think it's the number one priority for a lot of Brexiteers. And hey, Patrick's highlighted some things about population. Here's some more. And we do this a lot at Westminster because, again, I think the population surge in this country is ridiculous. I think it's 538,000 for the latest set of figures in 1 year.
62% was directly.
62% from net migration. So we've had the highest annual population growth for 70 years and no one's talking about it. And going forward, ONS, Office for National Statistics, they basically said that the UK's population is likely to increase by 3.6 million. That's 5.5% over the next decade. And this is one that's gone under the radar again, guys. I keep trying to highlight it, but everyone just seems to be content with ignoring it. England's population, according to the ONS figures, will surge by 5.9% between mid-2016 and mid-2026 in just 10 years. Does a population increase of 6% in a country in 10 years, in a decade, sound responsible at all? Does that sound like the type of number that you can actually accommodate, that you can actually build an infrastructure for? I mean, the whole thing's completely out of control. And again, over the next decade, the majority, 54% of population growth will be due to net migration, according to the ONS. In the longer term, the UK's population will soar from 65.6 million in mid-2016 to a mammoth 71.8 million by 2036. We have a housing crisis, we have an NHS crisis, we've got increasing demand on all of our services, and yet nothing's been done about it.
And I hate to be overly cynical about it, but this is just a classic case of incompetent government mismanagement, isn't it? It's all very well and good, as I've said, having various levels of immigration, but if you don't counter that by improving your infrastructure radically, and we're talking about an increase in population of around 6%, I think Michael's just said, I mean, you need to cater for that. And if this government can't get its head around and decide what it actually wants from Brexit, how do you trust it to deal with the housing crisis? How do you trust it to deal with the NHS crisis? How do you trust it to deal with the crisis on our education system? If it hasn't got a clear vision for Brexit, of all things, how on earth is it going to deal with this massive population surge? And if we do stay in this transitional deal, as well we are doing this indefinite transitional deal now, it would seem to be, Migration Watch UK did a report saying that they reckon about 1.1 million EU migrants could come to Britain in that time period, and that was when it was just a specific 2 and a bit year time period, bear in mind. About 1.1 million migrants could come in that time. Well, you add that to the already existing figures. I mean, really, what is the end game here for British society?
Yeah, and guys, look, one of the things we do at Westminster is we cover what's going on across the world because, the European Union is facing huge challenges. I mean, people like to act sometimes in Brussels as if it's sort of perfectly united and everything's calm and everything. there is huge political change
Massive.
sweeping through the world. Whether you talk about America with Trump, whether you talk about the UK with Brexit, whether you talk about Germany, and there's some incredibly interesting developments. Angela Merkel in the German Bundestag, again, this is over on westminster.com, you can go and see it. She's now talking openly about linking EU funds to the country's willingness to take in migrants. She quoted, the quote is, with the distribution of structural funds, that's EU funds, we must ensure that the allocation criteria in future reflect the engagement of many regions and municipalities in absorbing and integrating migrants. Solidarity cannot be a one-way street. Now, we know, don't we, Donald Tusk himself has said that the only reason Eurosceptic countries like governments like Poland sort of support staying in the EU is for the money, right?
Yeah.
Because they're net recipients of EU money, which is basically our money and Germans' money and all the rest of it.
But they've got a lovely infrastructure now.
Yeah, absolutely. But the interesting thing here, guys, is we know that the Polish government, we know that Viktor Orban in Hungary is not going to accept EU migrant quotas.
It's not going to happen.
So what you're going to see here in the longer term, and this could really mark the end of the European Union as you know it, is you've got Angela Merkel on one side with basically demanding that these countries, these governments have to take in big EU migrant quotas if they want the money. And these Eurosceptic European governments on the other side absolutely determined that they're going to have as strong borders as they can, absolutely determined that they are not going to be dictated to by Brussels when it comes to EU migrant quotas. And hey, something's got to give here. Because if you start taking the money, the sort of financial incentive of the EU away from Poland and Hungary, I firmly believe that they'll turn around and say, well, why are we in it then?
Well, yeah, but they've changed the rules, haven't they? When Hungary and Poland joined the European Union, there was never any notion whatsoever that their funds would be contingent on taking in migrant quotas. Thems were not the rules. Yeah, almost a little bit like a dictatorship. But so that was never the rules. That was never the set of scenario there at the start, was it? And now all of a sudden they're going, actually, look, if you don't take in our enforced migrant quotas, which by the way exists because of our total and complete ineptitude when it came to dealing with the migrant crisis, you will now not have their funds. And I'm sorry, but the EU is playing a bit of a dicey game there, because what they're doing is they're banking on the fact that the main thing for Hungarian and Polish citizens is the money. I'm sorry, but I don't think it is. I think the main thing is their national sovereignty and integrity. And the EU are playing a very, very risky game that could ultimately lead to its complete capitulation.
And now you've probably heard, we've highlighted it a number of times, the Alternative for Germany, the AfD, an anti-Euro, anti-mass migration party in Germany, are now polling second in Germany. They're polling in a solid third and up to second in one poll we saw recently. And the leader of the AfD, Patrick, with some very, very interesting comments yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So Angela Merkel was basically put back in her box in a big way in the German Bundestag by Alice Weidel. She's leader of the AfD. She's basically just read out, so I'll read out to you the exact quote now. She's slammed Merkel for her position on punishing Britain post-Brexit. She said, the EU wants to make an example of Great Britain a punishment beyond any economic or political reason. This is not how one treats a European partner. And by the way, the recession that was predicted ahead of the referendum did not happen. The British economy has showed growth. She goes on to say, now Brussels, Paris and Berlin are afraid that others could follow, that other states in Europe could take back their sovereignty. And that is why the European Commission is planning to restrict Britain's access to the single market, even during the transition period. She goes on and on, but basically she's really slammed Merkel's approach there for trying to punish Britain for Brexit. She's also said that basically, look, Project Fierce turned out to be total rubbish, hasn't it? And other EU nations are going to see that, and therefore they could leave as well.
Yeah, no, guys, I think it's incredibly interesting, the dynamics of what's going on in the European Union at the moment, because, as I say, to have the second most popular party in Germany, the leader of that party, stand up in the Bundestag and basically lay out, that you're trying to punish Britain, the Brexit's fine,
Telling the truth for once.
It shows you that the dynamics, the tectonic plates of European politics are moving underneath Merkel, and she's very powerless, she's very weakened, she can't really do much about it. And I think you're seeing the end of an era in Europe in terms of the Angela Merkel open border madness. Martin Schulz, for instance, United States of Europe, Schulz has stood down as leader of the SPD. They've just sunk in the polls to a ridiculous degree, because hey, it turns out propping up Angela Merkel and all this stuff isn't particularly popular anywhere.
Yes, this is it, isn't it?
But it shows you, you look at all these things as a combination. You look at what's going on in Hungary with Viktor Orban. You look at the Polish government, really popular, high in the polls because they're defending, their nation state against EU bureaucracy. And then you combine that with Brexit. And I start to think, certainly guys, let me know what you think about this. I start to think where Brexit Britain leads, others are going to follow. If we have the guts, if our politicians, if our leaders have the the balls to see this through, out of the single market, out of the customs union, controlling our borders, cooperating with European partners, doing European trade, but trade across the world as well. This could be a blueprint for a future independent Europe of independent nation states going forward, representing themselves on the world stage, not being isolationist, but engaging with the world, representing themselves, controlling their borders and making their own laws. And I think that would be a great thing.
Well, Alexander Smith agrees. Thank you very much. Alexander, it's good to have you on the show. Guys, we're up to way over 200 live viewers on Facebook. We've got more than 120 on Twitter. And
thank you very much.
Several on YouTube as well. So, guys, thank you very much. But Alexander Smith agrees, saying the winds of change are blowing down those towering pillars of the EU. And this is it, isn't it? Let's just say, OK, that Germany really wants to push through some kind of punishment scenario for Britain post-Brexit. And let's just say that that really ends up damaging or having a hit, even in maybe the short term, but probably long term as well, for Germany's economy. Now, we've seen that the AfD are rising. They are now the second most popular party, according to some polls.
And Václav Klaus, the former Czech president as well, some interesting comments.
And this is it. How long would it take, really, for the German economy to nosedive because they've given Britain a punishment deal before the AfD becomes Germany's most popular party? And we see that Angela Merkel's position becomes untenable. We see a completely Eurosceptic government in Germany and potentially the complete crumbling of the European Union.
As I said, guys, there's a story on westminster.com we did yesterday as well about Václav Klaus, former Czech Republic president, basically backing Viktor Orban. And there's quite a good quote in there, actually, that pretty much sums it up. He says, the only real solution to the migration crisis is to stop the mass migration. And I think the migrant crisis, elections upcoming in Italy, you've seen the complete lack of leadership from the European Union. It's been absolute chaos. They've not controlled the situation. They've just opened the door. You've seen chaos unfolding. In fact, President Macron now is positively hardline by the standards of the European Union. He's actually bringing in some reforms where he's going to seek to speed up deportations and actually, lock up people who break the law and come into the country illegally. I know, completely a revolutionary concept inside the hallowed halls of the European Union.
It's a weird one with Macron, isn't it? Because he basically seems like, all right, no, I'm Mr. EU. I'm absolutely in favour of everything the EU says, just not in France. And that seems to be his thing, which, though, that doesn't really work, does it? OK, no, it's all right. We'll basically have some policy that lets these migrants wander through the continent, but as soon as they get to France, well, we're not going to have them here. All right, well, how does that work?
We've got Hat223 on Twitter saying, excellent broadcast. Thanks, lads. Well, thank you very much. Just remember, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Same time, same place, 1 o'clock UK time. But, we're not going to leave you, are we?
No.
That smile on your face. There's always a bit of good news at the end of these uncensored broadcasts. And hey, Patrick.
Brexit, good news. Well, Brexit, boom. Airbus is going to keep UK manufacturing base long into the future. That comes from a letter from their CEO, Tom Enders, who's vowed to keep his business in Britain. He said that he will promise to make it the home country and a competitive place to invest. This is brilliant because, of course, they've got 15,000 employees here. It's also another nail in the coffin for Project Fear, isn't it? We even saw our Ramona Chancellor, Philip Hammond, everyone's favourite bloke, coming out and saying that basically, look, planes might not even take off. Well, I find it very difficult to believe. I find it very difficult to believe that a massive aircraft manufacturer would maintain its home base in a country where planes were not going to be taking off post-Brexit. There was no need whatsoever for this Airbus CEO to come out and write a letter to Greg Clark, the business secretary, at this early stage of its negotiations. So he's done it now because he's obviously very, very clear that everything in the aerospace industry is going to be absolutely fine post-Brexit.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us again. As I say, you can see all these stories on westmonster.com. Do go to westmonster.com/support if you would like to help us out, if you would like to see us grow, if you support what we're doing. We do very much appreciate your support. But we will see you on Monday, 1 o'clock. See you then, guys.
Take care, guys.